To wrap things up are Dave and Shelley Burgess of Teach Like a Pirate and Lead Like a Pirate fame. Dave, Shelley, welcome and thank you so much for bringing some fun, some joy, some gratitude, and tips for teachers and administrators as we wrap up Spring Q.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us. We're really excited to be with you, the whole Q crew, and the entire audience who's participating in this virtual conference. Thanks for having us.
Oh, absolutely. This is our pleasure. We had a chance to visit a few minutes ago, and I was sharing that, Dave, several years ago, I was the superintendent principal at San Antonio Union Elementary School, and we spent a year really focused on Teach Like a Pirate. That was our theme for the year, and taking the words of wisdom, the kindness and the grace that we can offer to our students and to each other out of that book. And so the sign that you see behind me comes out of that time where we, work like a captain and play like a pirate, because we do work hard, and we see our educators working so hard right now to maintain these learning environments and taking care of students' needs. But taking a moment to play like a pirate is also so important. So with that, tell us, what does it mean to have a spirit of a pirate?
Yeah, thank you so much, Pam, and thank you so much for using Teach Like a Pirate in the system. I love to hear that story. Well, so for us, Teach Like a Pirate has nothing to do with the dictionary definition. Like, we don't want teachers to go out and attack and rob ships at sea. It's got everything to do with the spirit. And to us, the spirit of a pirate is someone who's unconventional, someone who's willing to reject the status quo, someone who's willing to sail into uncharted waters with no guarantee of success, a risk taker, a rebel, a maverick in the classroom. So it's embracing that spirit of being a pirate. And if you think about what we're going through right now, we are absolutely in uncharted waters. As you use the term unprecedented, we're at unprecedented times. And so the spirit of a pirate and seeing this as a true adventure that we are taking off on is super important. And I always tell people, hey, pirates don't yell at the wind. Pirates don't curse the wind. They read the wind, they shift their sails, they go. And so that's what we need to do now is we need to, rather than being upset with this disruption and being disturbed by it, we have to see it as opportunity. We have to say, okay, the winds have shifted, they've changed. And so it's our responsibility to shift our sails to catch that wind and to get to where we ultimately need to go, which is the same place, which is to take care of students, take care of each other, our colleagues, our staff. And I think that the spirit of a pirate is very appropriate in these times.
It sure is. We want to remake education. We have this incredible opportunity, and it comes on the wings of something that really brings a lot of sadness and grief to us as a global community. But nevertheless, there is an incredible opportunity in education for a lot of us who have not been afraid to be mavericks and not afraid to fail and stumble along the journey to do things that are great for kids. This is quite the opportunity. Shelley, tell us what your thoughts are along those lines.
Well, it is, and I think that going along with what Dave said about us being in uncharted territory, it is. It's also a time to really take a look at educators across the country, across the world, and really they have stepped up. Nothing like this has happened to us before. I don't know. I can't think of a time ever where schools have shut down like they have. People have been asked to just turn on a dime, do your work differently, and it needs to be done differently tomorrow. It really is. It's unprecedented. And so I think that one of the things that both of us really want to express to everyone who's watching and every educator out there is just this incredible amount of appreciation for what educators are tackling and doing right now, and doing it with, you look all over social media, doing it with some laughter, doing it with definitely some trepidation, right? We're in those uncharted waters, but stepping up and encouraging their students, supporting their parents, working hand in hand. We see things all over about the incredible collaboration that's happening among colleagues to try and make this work. There are educators who are both in the classroom and maybe recently outside the classroom who are putting together resources and sharing widely. And there's there's such a spirit of camaraderie among educators right now that we're so grateful. Our kids are in great hands with all of you who are watching, and the colleagues that you're working with and supporting. And so I think that's just a big piece that we want to, is just gratitude, appreciation. We're not in a classroom and in a school anymore. And we've actually talked a little bit about, whoo, this is kind of a good time not to be there. You're joking, because the task that what everybody's been tasked with and charged with right now, it's an incredible time. And to see and watch educators everywhere, we're in awe of what people are doing right now. And so I think, from both of us, thank you for what you're doing.
Yeah, huge thank you to all of our educators and a lot of those folks who are behind the scenes as well.
Absolutely.
One of the things that has really resonated with me is that a lot of times, our EdTech folk are kind of, on the fringes in school districts, and some folks embrace them and love the ingenuity and the innovativeness that's coming, and other folks get shut down. It's like, that's not a safe tool, or let's not use that, or I'm afraid of it. And they went from being sort of isolated in some of their home communities, and finding their home with WeRQ, with us, and other organizations like us, to suddenly being called upon to really work almost 24 hours a day to get devices out to kids, to get connectivity out there, to teach colleagues who maybe have checked out during some of the trainings that they've been participating in over the last few years.
Unheard of, ma'am, unheard of.
Well, and the group of people you're talking about right now are superstars right now.
Yes.
They are working, like you said, 24 hours a day to make this happen for teachers and kids. It's incredible.
Yeah. What are some of the favorite things that you've seen out there? So as you're looking at social media and you're connecting with some of the authors that you have who are teachers, what are some of your favorites?
Yeah, so I love the spirit of collaboration. Like, for example, the Ridgeways and Stacy Roshan. So Don't Ditch That Tech and Tech with Heart have come together to create resources for educators who are doing some of this stuff for the first time, some of the asynchronous learning and the flipped classroom stuff and all that. They're coming together and creating resources. Matt Miller has just like knocked it out of the box.
Yes.
He must be working 24 hours a day creating resources for educators. Alice Keeler, her webpage is a must-have for everyone who's navigating these times right now. And I've seen Michael Cohen, the tech rabbi, putting stuff out about how to use Zoom, like tutorials on Zoom. And it's just been Rushton Hurley's put stuff out. There's an incredible group of educators who are just pouring resources out. And there's, as Shelley mentioned earlier, there's just this unbelievable spirit of positivity right now. And it kind of like, I got you. Like, hey, you need something? Hit me up, send me a DM, send me a message, I'll be there. And we see people that are jumping into Google Hangouts and Zooms and all that kind of stuff just to help people. Like, hey, let me show you how to set that up. And so I really love that spirit of cooperation right now.
Absolutely. And I think, going off of that, I just want to reiterate what you were saying, Pam, about the people right now who are in those tech coaching types of roles, people who are serving in, who have just, you said it so beautifully about, sometimes people go kicking and screaming with them, but I mean, right now they really are, they are saving the day for so many of our educators. And I know just recently I was in an email exchange with Adam Juarez and Catherine Goyette, who actually were trying to work to schedule a video conference with them about some other things and connect them with Tara. And they're just like, we are swamped. We are on video calls. It seems like 24 hours a day. And right after that, admission that we're so busy is we love it. Like we're excited about what we're able to do with and for people. And I think that goes along with what Dave was saying, where we're all saying about the positivity and camaraderie that is coming out of this.
One thing about pirates is they sail with a crew. They don't sail alone. They sail with a crew, and this is where we see those connections really coming in. And I love seeing how many people are going live. Like Tara Martin is on our Facebook page multiple times a day right now, going live with authors, sharing encouragement, advice, things like that. And lots of other people are going live. Adam Peterson, I see him going live all the time with content. And people are just like, hey, I have a skill set that is useful right now. I'm going to pop open Facebook Live or Instagram Live. I'm going to pop on there and just start to share. And so it's really been incredible to see that.
Yeah. I don't think very many educators are sleeping right now.
I don't think so either. So, one of the fun things I've watched happen with some of our Q folks is hashtag midnight pedagogy. There's a meetup every evening. I got introduced to this at Fall Q last year. We were out late at the end of one of our full days of learning together. And our younger crew, those teachers that are in their 20s and they're lighting it up and just bringing that energy and that innovation that you get from that mindset of youth. And when you're first starting, we're like, hey, we do this thing called Midnight Pedagogy, and they've got stickers. And I was like, man, I'm not usually even up still at this time. So they've been getting together. I had the opportunity to join them on one of those conversations. And if you check out the hashtag Midnight Pedagogy, that's a great community of teachers that are coming together and talking about what's working, what's not working, and also just reflecting and kind of taking some time of camaraderie with one another.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think one of the strange things is that the days have all started to kind of blend together a little bit, and the alarm clocks are maybe the least useful thing in the world right now, right? And so it's just kind of like, what day is it? Always Thursday, Wednesday? Or you see lots of people not being able to distinguish between weekends and weekdays, and because we've lost that structure to our schedule, but it's opened up some great opportunities as well.
I think there are also a lot more people wearing yoga pants.
Yes. Or dressed really nicely on the top half, but not maybe on the bottom half.
Lots of half outfit.
Right. Yes. Professional on top. So many good things happening out there, and so much good happening with the work that you're doing. And Dave, you've given great advice in your book, Teach Like a Pirate, and a lot of that transfers over because it really goes to the spirit of the pirate as we talk about online learning and remote learning. What kind of tips and advice do you have for teachers right now?
Yeah, so I can think of several things. One, we always talk about not having enough time to really go have deep dives on topics and subjects. And we're kind of on a surface level trying to cover our entire curriculum. And we say, oh, I wish I had more time for passion projects or genius hour or all these kind of things like that. And right now, I think we can see this as a great opportunity to really embrace that. Really let kids go deep onto some subjects, really go into some passion projects, really embrace kind of a genius hour spirit, and say, hey, what is it about this curriculum that's exciting you right now? Maybe you want to go deep diving on it and do a project. Maybe you want to learn more about something. And so really opening up that, stopping that surface level teaching and realizing, hey, you know what, this hoop that we used to jump through, which was test preparation, that we thought was so important, well, like many of us realize all along, it's not so important anymore, right? Mm-hmm. And so right now, let's go deep diving on some stuff. Let's give some kids some choice. Let's give them some voice. And one of the things I often say is, let's be more concerned with the learning and less concerned with how they show it. So more concerned that they're learning, less concerned with how they show it. So offering some choice in how they're going to demonstrate their knowledge, and maybe even what they want to demonstrate their knowledge about. And so I think that's one possibility of a place to really change. I think the R chapter of Teach Like a Pirate is rapport. I think this is a time we've lost that geographical connection with kids, right? That closeness. But yet it's still even maybe more important now to still maintain that rapport, build those relationships, and to find multiple ways to connect with students. So I think that's something that we can be focusing on. And again, it's a movement of like, hey, it's not just about the content right now. It's let's take care of kids. Let's make sure they're okay. And I know lots of adults, and I consider myself one of them, and I think Shelley as well, who, I mean, there's some anxiety right now. There's uncertainty. There's stress around all of this. And if that's the case for adults, just imagine what it is for students. And so I think that we have to really focus on those social emotional parts of education right now and really tap into that with our kids and with our colleagues as well. And then the other thing I would say is one of the quotes from Teach Like a Pirate is, don't just teach a lesson, create an experience.
Yes.
Lessons are easily forgotten, but experiences live forever. And now we have this beautiful opportunity to really embrace that and to create experiences for kids. One of the ways you can do that is to focus more on, like, nobody wants an assignment. I don't want an assignment. You don't want an assignment, but challenge me and I'll do almost anything, right?
Yes.
So how can we move from assignments to challenges? You see this happening right now with in the fitness spectrum, where you see lots of fitness challenges where people are calling people out. Hey, here's me doing 20 push-ups, or here's me, I'm going to do 30 burpees for 30 days in a row, and they're videoing it and they're sending it out, and other people are tapping into that. Now, if you were to tell someone like, hey, here's what I want you to do. You need to do 20 push-ups, you need to do 30 burpees, go. Like, people are like, I'm not doing that. But create a challenge and it can go viral, right? And it can go viral. The same thing is true with learning. Like, they have these things, you've probably heard of them, like Tough Mudders or Spartan races. If you're listening to this and you don't know what that is, let me explain to you the concept. You pay them money and then they set up a course to torture you. That is exactly what happened. You pay them money, they give you a t-shirt and they torture you. People by the thousands do these, right? And I mean, there are mud pits that you have to crawl through. There's electrical shocks. There's freezing water you have to jump in. You climb under, you crawl underneath barbed wire and over top of walls, right? It's crazy, but people sign it. Why? Because now, I have some neighbors that do this.
We have not done it.
We do not do these races.
But those folks next door.
We're on our bucket list.
Yeah, we do not do these races. But my next door neighbor, Guy and Omar, they do these races. I'm a little text with them, okay? And so they went to one of these Tough Mudder races, and in the mud pit, Omar, his left hamstring cramped up, right? He threw all of his weight onto his right hamstring, and that cramped up. He slumped down into the mud, and his other buddies, including Guy next door, they lifted him up under the armpits, pulled him, dragged him out with his legs dragging him out, cramped up out of the mud pit. They helped lift him and boost him up over this wall, where then he dropped over the other side, and he limped to the finish line, right? This same guy, Omar, the next day in our little group text chain, he says, hey, I see there's going to be another one in Los Angeles in a couple of weeks. Are you kidding me? What? You have to be kidding me, right? But why? Because it was a challenge. It was tough. It was something that they conquered together. There was camaraderie. There was a spirit of like, hey, we could do this. They trained for it together, right? They connected around it. They talk about it afterwards like it's a war story, right? And so it's this whole spirit of camaraderie, coming together, overcoming something that's difficult. So it's not that we have to give kids easy work. Kids will do incredible stuff for us, right? If we can frame it different, if we can reframe it as a challenge for them. Don't give an assignment, give a challenge. That's what I want to do.
Yes, and I think, letting kids surprise us too, right? Not everything has to be adult directed. I think they have this entire environment around them and like, I want you to show me how to, right? Measure 1/4 a cup of anything of your choice, or, what are some physical activities that you do that we might not typically do in PE at school? But dropping in that student choice that says, this is your opportunity to show me how it's done as a teacher. Wow, right? Because kids know, right? They kind of, they follow our lead and they're like, that's cool, I know you got to do your thing, right, as an adult. But when we give them ownership of their learning, they can surprise us with some pretty cool stuff. Now saying that though, it can be scary for a teacher or for a school leader to give that kind of freedom, right? And Shelley, you're full of words of wisdom from Lead Like a Pirate. So as a leader or an administrator and somebody who might be scared to, go out of the parameters of what we've always known as safe, what kind of words of advice do you offer?
There's a couple things that that maybe I would share with people right now. One of them is and Dave was talking about the stress and anxiety that that I think think if you're not feeling stress and anxiety right now, I think you are the exception,
Mm-hmm.
rather than the rule. And I think that there are, when people are under stress or having anxiety, usually they react in one of two ways. One is they go into hyperdrive, right? And you just get you just go, 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 do, 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 do. The other is the opposite end of the spectrum, right? Where you just get unproductive. You can't seem to want to get out of bed. You can't seem, and it's a pretty typical reaction that people have one or the other. I think most school leaders and most district leaders are that first one. That's that go into that hyper mode of I have to do, 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 do. And I know you can see it everywhere. I just,
Mm-hmm.
when I think about my days as an assistant superintendent, and I've talked to some of my superintendent and principal friends about just the sheer volume of logistics that have to be done, and figuring out how are kids going to get, like, not even just the learning aspect, but how are the connectivity, and making sure all kids have connectivity. Kids need lunches in a different way. I mean, the amount of work that schools and leaders are having to do to support more than just learning with their kiddos and their families is just, it's enormous. And so I think that there is a tendency when we get into that hyper place, and there are so many logistics to attend to, that's where we focus all of our energy, or the majority of our energy. And I think this is such a time to also tap into, even more so, that human side of leadership. And that, yes, logistics have to be taken care of, but people need to be taken care of too. And this is a time to tap into the genius of all of these people that you have who work as part of your team. It goes back to that spirit of camaraderie. And I think leaders want to take care. We want to take care of everything. We want to make sure that everything is done. But it's such a time also to tap into that genius that exists, and the talents and the gifts that other people have. But then also make sure that there's time. Slow down when you can, take a deep breath with stop the logistics for a while. Instead of sending one more mass email, maybe pick up the phone and make a few phone calls. Check in on your staff, and just I've been thinking about you. How are you? How's your family? And I think it is easy to, and not that leaders forget, because we know we care so much about our people, but when there's so much that has to be done logistically, it's a time where we can forget to stop and do that human side of leadership, and that relationship piece of leadership. And I think there needs to be an acknowledgement of all of us. And I think there is. But just to reiterate that, even though, unfortunately, for all of us who are educators, educators still have their salaries. Educators are still, making the same amount of money this month that they did last month. And I
Right.
think we're so fortunate that that is the case with our profession. But we have lots of educators who have spouses who have lost their jobs. We have educators and staff who may have sick relatives who are taking care, even if they're not sick. I mean, we're doing all the grocery shopping and errands and things for our older parents who are fortunate they live nearby. People are fearful. And so that taking that time to really slow down and tell people it's okay to slow down. This is not a time to have to be perfect. This is a time to be human, to do our best, to make our best effort, but it is not a time to be perfect. And it's okay that we're not. And so I think that part of leadership that is, rather than being frustrated when somebody's not getting it right, this is the time to be that leader that appreciates you for taking a risk and trying something new.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's a time to celebrate small wins. I think it's a time to celebrate connection. And so I think that those aspects of leadership, we talk a lot about those in Lead Like a Pirate. This is a time for those, whether you want to call them soft skills of leadership, or that, but this is a time for us to raise the bar on what we're doing to support our people. And I think that there's I think we also have to think about too, who's supporting our principal. It's kind of this, we talk about in Lead Like a Pirate, this concept of who's your primary client in education, and give them, as much support as you can. And so really, if you look at it system wide, school board members, if you're listening and watching, pick up the phone and check on your superintendents.
Amen.
It,
Yes. Nobody,
it,
right? Who's taking care of our
that's
district
right.
office leaders and our
Yeah.
superintendents right now?
Superintendents, pick up the phone and call your principals.
Yes.
And check in on them and let that trickle down. Principals, check on your staff. Teachers, check on your kids and your families. I think that that's a big piece of what I would say to leaders right now is it's okay to give yourself permission to not get it all right. It doesn't have to be perfect. Be as clear as you can and as communicative as you can. Share what needs to be known. But check in, and that personal phone call. We were so digital driven, right? We text, we email, I think there's something right now about hearing a voice that's really meaningful for people. And so that picking up the phone and calling instead of sending the text, or scheduling a hangout or a Zoom like this, one-on-one, just I want to see your face, I want to see your smile, I'm asking you if you're okay, but I want to check in and I want to see you and make sure that you're okay. I think that's a big thing that I'd want to convey. And then I think one more piece is and we were talking about this earlier, it's one of the great things that's happening right now is how much sharing of things there are, how much support people are willing to give, how many resources are being put out and shared with people. But I also think a role of a leader right now is to realize that there could be, for some people, a real information overload right now. And just there's so much coming, and especially if you think about people who are brand new to technology and setting up Google Classroom for the very first time, or doing this sort of spray and pray mode of being a leader right now may not be the best way to go. It's who's helping you filter things down and sift through which can be perceived as beautiful music with all of the resources and things that are being shared, but could also be perceived by some as a lot of noise. Who's helping sift through that for people who need that, so that thinking about what do people just need tomorrow, or what do people just need to get through next week. And I think for some of our people that's going to be really important. Some of those people who are have been entrenched with technology and remote learning for years, they can sort and sift through everything with no problem. They know what they're looking. It's a different language, they know the language. But for some of our educators, really thinking about how we're helping manage information overload and load, and just getting them the right tool for the right time. And that may just be on a week-by-week basis, or even sometimes a day-by-day basis. So I think those are at least a couple of things. And I just think, again, that appreciate people, thank them for taking risks, celebrate those small wins. I think that those are some of the things right now that are really will be really meaningful for people.
Yeah, oh, I couldn't agree more. And Dave, with your expertise from the classroom and the passion that comes with teaching like a pirate, and the rapport and all those other components that are part of that, we know that we have students that have different resources available to them in their homes, in their communities, through technology, so that there's this combination of analog learning and digital learning. And one of the things we don't want to do is get stuck, right, and say, hey, just because I can't offer this equally to all groups, but we can offer equitable educations or continue to move forward. We don't want to stop just because we're afraid one group isn't going to get something. Based on your experience, what kind of advice do you have to offer to make sure that we're still continuing to teach and reach kids where they're at?
Yeah, so I think that is one of the
we were just talking about this last night.
Yeah, I think it's one of the hidden benefits that's going to come out of this, is that although people have been talking about it for years and yelling from the rooftops about equity and access and lack of access of some of our students, sometimes they say sunshine is the best disinfectant. And so this, I think, has really put a lot of light on these issues of equity and access. And now all of a sudden, when the students are not on site with us and they are in their neighborhoods, their homes, and we're saying, oh, but yet we still have to provide an equitable education to all of these students. Oh, we have some issues here. Well, the truth is, of course, that we had issues all along, and that it was an issue before COVID-19 as well, but it just wasn't getting the same attention as it is now. And so I think that's one of the great benefits that is going to come out of this, is that for a lot of people who are maybe not so aware of what was going on, or maybe not so concerned, it's like, oh, wait a second. We have some real problems that we need to address in our educational system and how we provide access and equity. And so I'm excited to see what comes out of this now that that disinfectant of light, that sunshine, has been put on this. Like I said, it's not like people didn't know this was going on before, and people haven't been talking about this before. But now I think it's just a wider exposure to it, which I think is going to really be helpful.
Yes.
I think that the multiple avenues of connection and choice is going to be a big part of this too. And not having those real super prescriptive assignments that might rely on certain resources and certain access to technology and things like that, but having a much wider approach to what we, again, not so much concerned with how they demonstrate their knowledge, or not so concerned with the learning, but not with how they show it. And so I think that choice is going to be a big part of this.
But I think that this is also a time where there really is, I think that, so this is a kind of taking it in another direction at this point too, but there's something when we were talking about what are some of the good things that are coming out of this. And I think that equity, shining the light on equitable access is huge. I think another piece is we're seeing, I think, more of this blending of pedagogy and different types of styles and it's that we need the best that technology can offer us, but we also need the best of pedagogy and instruction that doesn't require technology. That there are so I think that blending of what's happening right now, and there's been sometimes this I don't know that division's the right word, but you have the must do tech people here, and the tech doesn't matter so much people here. We got to sort of stick to the old ways.
There's this fabulous place right in the middle, right? That is pedagogy first.
I think we're hitting a point with all of this that is exactly what you said, is that good pedagogy is good pedagogy. It can be here, but now how do we put these two together and create something that is really a meaningful experience for the kids that we're serving? And so I think that that's another thing too, is that and you said it exactly right. Pedagogy is at the core of it, and tech's not trying to replace good pedagogy, and good pedagogy can be enhanced and married with tech. And I think that I think people are seeing that. People who maybe haven't seen that before are getting an opportunity to see that firsthand. Whether they wanted to or not, that's where we are. And I think that that's another good thing that's coming out of this.
Right, and to borrow from Dave, really shining the light on what's out there and what those opportunities are that we have now. Now, we talked earlier about giving grace, because we have seen, historically, that there are some inequities that perhaps we've just systematically and culturally ignored along the way. And sometimes we also see and hear the judgment that gets placed out in the community based on what people are doing or what people are not doing. And talking about grace, as people make decisions right now and moving forward, what does that look like and feel like for folks on all positions in education?
Yeah, well, so I think from the teaching perspective, I often tell this story. A teacher approached me and said that they were ready to quit the profession. They said things were horrible, they were a failure, they were, they weren't cut out for this, and they were going to leave the profession of education. I said, whoa, wait, hold on. Tell me what happened. And they told this story where basically at the heart of it, 29 of their 30 students were wildly engaged and interested in their lesson, one student popped off. One student was a behavior problem. One student was a problem in the classroom. They walked away from that experience feeling like a failure.
Mm-hmm.
So I always tell people, life isn't 100% or fail, right? Like if you set up your rubric for success as an educator, is that you have to have 100% engagement from 100% of your students on 100% of the days that you're teaching. You have now just set up a rubric where you have guaranteed yourself a career of disappointment, right? Because you're never going to hit that. This isn't about being perfect. This is about being better. We talk to kids about a growth mindset all the time. A kid comes to us and says, I'm not good at math. We say, whoa, 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 hold on. You're not good at math yet, right? Or if a student were to come to us and say, hey, you know what? I am not comfortable speaking in front of groups of people. It's just not something I can do. So do we say to that kid, oh yeah, I totally understand. Just go sit quietly in the corner all year? No, of course we don't say that, right? We work with them. We build up their confidence. We work with them until they have the skill, that they feel the skills to be able to feel confident and to be able to deliver that little by little, to be able to give that presentation in front of the class, right? And so we have to turn that same light, that same focus towards ourselves too. We have to have that growth mindset. We're in a tough spot right now. No one has ever done this before. This is the first time, right? Like literally,
Yes.
if you could do something perfectly on the first time, like that's ridiculous. That's ludicrous. You must be like a superhero, right? This is the first time for all of us in this experience. We can't expect perfection. We have to give ourselves grace. We have to give our colleagues grace. We have to give our students grace. This is the first time for them as well to do this. And so we have to know that they're struggling, and it's I think another thing that's kind of a positive of this is that it's thrown many of us into that position of being a learner,
Mm-hmm.
that position of doing something again for the first time. And many of us are so good at what we do, and we're so comfortable with what we do, that we forget what it's like to be that first learner, right? To have that experience. And so now all of a sudden we're thrown into that spot, and we're thrown out there into the dropped into the pool, kind of trying to struggle our way over to the side and trying to catch a breath. And so I think it's going to give us some empathy for our students and for what they go through every day when we present them with new information.
Dave, that's really well said. One of the things I also look at is our leaders. When we take a look at the superintendency, for example, the average superintendent serves for 2.7 years before leaving that position. And leadership in our education positions is always been crucial and very critical, but will be so even more as we move forward. And I'm concerned that this is really going to impact those educators who have chosen to serve in these positions, because this is extraordinarily stressful. And unlike being a teacher, there isn't a set of colleagues within the district to connect with and talk with openly, because nobody else is in that job.
Yeah.
And so, what do we do as teachers, as educators, to provide grace for our district office personnel and our superintendents so that they stick with it? And even if we feel like, hey, my superintendent, my principal doesn't understand me, how do we invest in our leaders so that they can ride this time out and come out healthy on the other end and with the strength to continue to lead?
Yeah, and that's a great question, and we might have a lot of superintendents retiring in June. I'm kidding. You know, superintendents, district office leaders, principal people in those roles right now, they are working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and at their core right now, it's like I said, they're trying to take care of their logistics, they're trying to take care of their people, they're trying to do it all, and they're trying to do it with grace. They're trying to do it with a calm facade. There's I love the quote from Todd Whitaker that, when a principal sneezes, everyone catches a cold. People are looking at them and looking at how they're presenting the challenge, so that needing to stay calm, even though I know across the country, principals and superintendents, they're like the duck on the water. They're calm, calm on top, and they're paddling as quickly as they can. And what I know is that, a lot of people in those positions, they want to take it so that their people can be okay, and that the people that they serve can be okay. And I think, though, what you said about what teachers can do right now, and I can guarantee you there isn't a superintendent or district office person or principal or assistant principal right now who's expecting a thank you, or who is expecting a card that expresses appreciation. They're not expecting a phone call from any of you that just says, "Hey, how are you doing?" They don't. They're not. They are putting. They want to be those people for you, but I can tell you. I can tell you from experience that even when we don't want those, when that comes our way, and I'll be honest, they don't happen super frequently all the time where you get that, and it's not because people don't appreciate the work that you do. It's just that it's the way the system's set up. You know, the person who's in that leadership role is really trying hard to take care of their team, and it's really meaningful. So as much as I think that principals should be checking on teachers and staff, and superintendents should be checking on principals, the picking up the phone and doing it the other way, where a teacher calls a principal calls a superintendent, and just says, "How are you? And thanks for keeping our team strong. Thanks for helping us through this. Thanks for leading the charge." One of the things that I would say is, and giving a specific example of something that you've done. So to be able to say, "You know what? I just wanted you to know that when you did X, Y, or Z, that had an impact on me, that helped me." As simple as when you gave me a day off, gave me the day, you had asked all of us to have something ready by Monday, and you let me have it ready by Tuesday because I was taking care of a sick child, or like, I can't tell you how much that meant to me. So I think, looking for some specific things, and I think not just teacher to principal or principal to superintendent, or something, like just with everybody right now, that when you can get really specific about something that someone did that truly had an impact on you in a meaningful way, don't keep that to yourself, share it. I can guarantee you that your school leaders, your district leaders, that will go a very long way in helping them know that what they're doing is worth it, because that's what they want to know, that they're having a positive impact, and you letting them know that that is the case will go a long way in helping keep leaders going and pushing through this.
I was going to add that what she's talking about right now is a beautiful example of Shelley and Beth Huff, their anchor conversations in the book Lead Like a Pirate, and that appreciation is the A and the N is notice the impact. And I love how she just mentioned that it just isn't from the top to the bottom, like it's not like just leadership to staff, but it could also be the other way, staff to leadership. And so if you haven't seen the anchor conversations in Lead Like a Pirate, that's a fantastic place to look, to really show you how to create powerful conversations between educators without there being that sense of creating defensiveness or an evaluative tone to it. And one of the things that they talk about in Lead Like a Pirate, I talk about it too when I get a chance to talk to leaders, is if you want to see,
I know exactly what he's going to say.
Innovation and risk taking are kind of buzzwords, and people always say, "Oh, I want to have innovative educators. I want risk takers on my staff." Well, we don't really know how you feel about innovation and risk taking until we find out how you respond when someone fails. Yeah. That's when we really know. Because when you have superstars who are going off and doing wonderful things, it's easy to say, "Oh, I love my risk takers." But when someone falls flat on their face, which is going to happen a lot right now, it's going to happen a lot right now. How do you come in? Do you come in a judgmental and evaluative way? Or do you come in a way that is offering yourself as a support and as someone who's there to celebrate the risk, celebrate the courage that educator had in trying something new? if you come in that way that is as offering yourself as a support and celebrating the risk and the courage, you will see more innovation and risk taking in your system and in your staff. If you come in evaluative and judgmental, you will see less. And so it's super important right now how you respond to people who are struggling and failing maybe sometimes on your staff. This is going to be something that's going to change the culture of your school well
Forever.
beyond COVID-19.
Mhm.
Well beyond COVID-19. This is going to change the culture of your school.
Excellent, and I think that ties in perfectly to the spirit of the pirate, right? The spirit of the pirate is somebody that is going to go on that adventure, is going to take those risks, and also is going to maybe celebrate the risk, not the failure, but celebrate the risk that was taken, because we know that's how we move forward. We make change and we make things better. I want to thank both of you for joining us. This has been a great conversation. I knew it would be. Before we sign off for Virtual Q, what would you like to share? You have the platform right now to say anything you want to our Q members, and we are getting folks from all around the world that are tuning in. What final words do you have for us?
So I think it starts with this. You are not alone. Sometimes, again, we're geographically isolated from each other right now with social distancing and all that, but you are not alone. We're all in this together. Your struggles are our struggles, and please reach out. All of us are a direct message, an email, a phone call, a text away. We have incredible resources. We have incredible educators who will come to the rescue, help you in any way. We'll jump into a Google Hangout, we'll jump to a Zoom. We have authors at Burgess Consulting who will do all these different things. So please reach out. Don't feel alone. Connect with us. I'm at Burgess Dave on Twitter, DBC_INC on Instagram. That's the two places where I live most often. You can find us at daveburgess.com or daveburgessconsulting.com, leadlikeapirate.net. So there's lots of ways you can connect with us. And then I would also add that I think another one of the benefits of this has been I think there's a paradigm shift that's happened.
Yes.
And it's about the speed of change. And there were lots of people who were constantly saying, hey, education can't change. Education is too slow to change. Things take years. It's kind of like when they talk about when you change the rudder on the ship, it takes a long time for the ship to turn around because it's so big, and education is like that. And now all of a sudden, hey, that's been blown out of the water. As educators, as an educational system, we can shift on a dime. We can innovate. We can create. It doesn't take years for change to happen. And so that whole belief that change can't happen quickly in education, this has been a complete paradigm shift. Change can happen in a week, because that's what we've seen happen all around the world. And so when we leave coronavirus, when we leave COVID-19 and all this, and we go back into our buildings, into our schools, whatever that looks like, please remember that change can happen now. Change can be quick, and we can be innovative and make progress right away. It doesn't have to take years.
Well, that's hard to follow.
He kind of said it all there, didn't he, Shelley?
I know. I might go a little bit different direction, and just take it to a personal place for a moment. And I think you're taking care of everybody. Take time and take care of you. Take a moment to do something just for yourself, to take a deep breath, to give yourself, do something for yourself every single day. I think that, we're talking about this part of giving ourselves grace and giving ourselves space. I think another thing that I would say is taking some time to find the silver lining in some of this, and even from a not even an education perspective, but from a family perspective, or whatever that might be for people. And for us, as an example, it may not be his favorite thing, but we were really thrilled that our son got to come home from his first year of college a little bit early. We have the whole
Yes.
because we missed him, right? That we're having more family meals together. We're playing more cards. We played Mexican train dominoes together the other night. There are silver linings in some of this, that if you shift your lens a little bit and take a look at what some of those might be, remind yourself of what those are.
Well, the lessons and the wisdom in Teach Like a Pirate and Lead Like a Pirate couldn't be more timely because they really are about who we are, our character, and the risks that we're willing to take to make sure that we have student-first education systems and structures in place. Dave and Shelley, thank you for joining us. And if you haven't read Lead Like a Pirate or Teach Like a Pirate yet, I invite you to take a look at those books. The wisdom and the expertise in there are bar none. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much, Pam.